pierced through the silence at 6:30 a.m., just as it had every weekday for the past 8 years. Gabriel Torres rolled out of bed with military precision, his movements sharp and deliberate despite the early hour. At 35, he maintained the same discipline that had served him well during his 12 years as a Marine Corps sniper, and later as a private security consultant for high-profile clients. "Daddy, is Mommy ready?" 5-year-old Oliver bounded into the kitchen, his Batman pajamas wrinkled from sleep. The boy's dark hair stuck up at odd angles, a genetic gift from Gabriel's own stubborn locks. "She's getting dressed, buddy. Go brush your teeth while I make breakfast." Gabriel ruffled his son's hair, watching as Oliver scrambled toward the bathroom. The morning routine was sacred in the Torres household. Breakfast at 7, out the door by 7:30, Isabella at the train station by 8 for her commute to the city. Isabella emerged from their bedroom looking immaculate as always. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a sleek bun, her charcoal business suit pressed to perfection. At 32, she'd built an impressive career as a marketing director for a luxury hotel chain, often working late and traveling for conferences. Gabriel admired her ambition, even when it meant fewer family dinners. "Coffee's ready," Gabriel said, handing her the travel mug she preferred. Black, 2 sugars, just how she'd taken it since their college days at Northwestern. "Thanks, babe." Isabella kissed his cheek absently, already scrolling through her phone. "I might be late tonight. Big presentation tomorrow for the Henderson Group." Gabriel nodded, accustomed to her demanding schedule. He'd built his consulting business around flexibility, taking contracts that allowed him to be present for Oliver while Isabella climbed the corporate ladder. It was an arrangement that worked, or so he'd believed. The drive to Union Station took 25 minutes through Chicago's morning traffic. Oliver chattered about his upcoming school project on dinosaurs, while Isabella responded to emails in the passenger seat. Gabriel watched her in the rearview mirror, noting how she'd started wearing more makeup lately, how her work clothes had become more fashionable. "Bye, Mommy," Oliver called as Isabella climbed out at the departure zone. "Be good for Daddy," she said, blowing them both a kiss before disappearing into the crowd of commuters. The return trip was usually filled with Oliver's endless questions about everything from why the sky was blue to whether dinosaurs could swim. But today, something felt different. Gabriel caught his son staring out the window with unusual intensity, his small hands pressed against the glass. "What's on your mind, soldier?" Gabriel asked, using the nickname he'd given Oliver since the boy learned to walk. "Daddy," Oliver's voice was barely above a whisper. "When we go home, we need to be careful." Gabriel's training kicked in, the same instinct that had kept him alive through 3 tours in Afghanistan. His son's tone carried a weight that no 5-year-old should possess. "What do you mean, Oliver?" "It's about Mom." The boy's voice cracked slightly. "She does things when you're not there." Gabriel's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "What kind of things?" Oliver turned to face his father, his young eyes holding a seriousness that chilled Gabriel to the bone. "Promise you won't get mad at me." "I promise, buddy. Tell me what you've seen." "The mailman comes inside when you're not home. He stays for a long time. Mommy told me it's a secret game and I can't tell you." Oliver's words tumbled out in a rush. "But yesterday, I saw them in your bedroom through the crack in the door. They were wrestling without clothes on, and Mommy was making the same sound she makes when you wrestle with her at night." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Gabriel pulled into a parking lot, his hands shaking slightly as he processed his son's innocent revelation. The mailman. Of course. Regular delivery schedule, familiar face, perfect cover. "Oliver, look at me." Gabriel turned in his seat, meeting his son's frightened gaze. "You did the right thing telling me. This isn't your fault, and I'm not mad at you. But from now on, when we see something that doesn't feel right, we keep it between us, okay?" The boy nodded solemnly. "Are you going to stop them from wrestling?" Gabriel's jaw clenched. "Yes, son. I'm going to stop them." Chapter 2. The Watching Game. They didn't go straight home. Instead, Gabriel drove to a nearby park where Oliver could play while his father's mind raced through possibilities and plans. 20 years of tactical training doesn't simply disappear because you've been betrayed by the person you trusted most. "How long has the mailman been coming inside?" Gabriel asked, as Oliver climbed the jungle gym. "Since before my birthday," Oliver replied, hanging upside down from the monkey bars. "Maybe before Christmas, too. 6 months. Maybe longer." Gabriel felt the familiar cold settle over him, the same detachment that had made him one of the military's most effective snipers. Emotion was a luxury he couldn't afford when calculating angles and wind speed, and it was a luxury he couldn't afford now. His phone buzzed with a text from Isabella. "Forgot to mention, working late again tonight. Don't wait up. Love you." Gabriel stared at the message, analyzing it with new eyes. The timing was too convenient, the excuse too familiar. He wondered how many late nights had actually been spent with their mailman in his own bed. "Daddy, can we go home now?" Oliver asked, jogging back to the truck. "Actually, I have a better idea. Want to play a game?" Oliver's eyes lit up. "What kind of game?" "It's called the watching game. We're going to park where we can see our house, but nobody can see us. Then we watch and see what happens." Gabriel drove to a position 3 blocks away, parking the truck behind a row of delivery vans that provided perfect concealment while maintaining a clear line of sight to their 2-story colonial home. He'd learned patience in the desert, spending hours motionless while waiting for the perfect shot. This was no different. They didn't have to wait long. At 10:47 a.m., a familiar blue postal truck turned onto their street. Gabriel recognized the driver immediately. Trevor Walsh, mid-20s, athletic build, the kind of cocky smile that women seem to find charming. Gabriel had always been polite to the man, even tipped him at Christmas. "There's Mommy's friend," Oliver said quietly. Gabriel watched through binoculars as Trevor parked in their driveway, rather than on the street like a normal mail delivery. The man looked around cautiously before using what was clearly a house key to enter through the front door. 37 minutes. Gabriel murmured when Trevor finally emerged, his uniform slightly disheveled. The mailman locked the door behind him and drove away, whistling. "Is the game over now, Daddy?" "Not yet, buddy. We're going to play this game a few more times." Over the next week, Gabriel documented everything. Trevor arrived every Tuesday and Thursday at approximately 10:45 a.m., always staying between 30 and 45 minutes. He had a key, suggesting this arrangement had been going on for some time. Gabriel photographed the license plate, the exact times, even managed to capture images of Trevor's face as he left their house. But Gabriel wanted more than evidence of an affair. He wanted to understand the full scope of the betrayal. Thursday morning, after dropping Isabella at the station, Gabriel called his old military contact, Rico Valdez, who now ran a private investigation firm in Denver. "I need a complete background check," Gabriel said without preamble. "Trevor Walsh, Chicago postal worker, DOB probably 1998 or 1999. Personal or professional?" "Very personal." Rico didn't ask questions. Within hours, Gabriel had Trevor's full history. 3 previous affairs with married women on his route, a gambling problem, 2 DUIs, and a restraining order from an ex-girlfriend who'd accused him of stalking. Gabriel felt the familiar calm settle over him as he studied the information. Trevor Walsh wasn't just sleeping with his wife. He was a predator who specialized in targeting married women while their husbands were away. "Oliver," Gabriel said that evening as they ate dinner, "remember when we talked about keeping secrets between us?" The boy nodded, twirling spaghetti on his fork. "Tomorrow, we're going to play the watching game one more time. But this time, Daddy needs to go inside the house while you wait in the truck. Can you be brave for me? Are you going to stop Mommy's friend from coming over?" Gabriel met his son's eyes. "Yes, Oliver. I'm going to stop him. Forever." Chapter 3. The First Move. Friday morning brought unseasonably warm weather for October in Chicago. Gabriel had planned for this day with military precision, down to the last detail. As they drove Isabella to the station, she seemed more nervous than usual, checking her phone constantly. "Everything all right?" Gabriel asked. "Just work stress," she replied, but her hand was shaking slightly. "I'll probably be late again tonight." "Of course you will," Gabriel thought, but smiled instead. "Don't work too hard." At exactly 10:30 a.m., Gabriel parked the truck 2 blocks away with Oliver inside, the doors locked and the air conditioning running. "Remember what we practiced?" Gabriel told his son. "If anyone comes near the truck who isn't me, You hit this button. He showed Oliver the panic alarm on his keychain. Then you call Uncle Rico. Gabriel had programmed Rico's number into a prepaid phone for emergencies. I remember, Daddy. Be careful. Gabriel made his way through the backyards, using the same stealth techniques that had kept him alive overseas. He entered through the basement window he'd deliberately left unlatched, moving silently through his own home like a ghost. At 10:47 a.m., right on schedule, he heard the front door open. Isabella. Trevor's voice called out. I brought lunch. Gabriel crept up the basement stairs, staying in the shadows. Through the kitchen doorway, he could see Trevor setting out Chinese takeout containers on the dining room table, the same table where Gabriel ate breakfast with his son every morning. When Trevor headed upstairs, probably to wait in the master bedroom, Gabriel followed. Surprise, Gabriel said quietly as he stepped into his own bedroom doorway. Trevor spun around, his face cycling through confusion, fear, and panic in rapid succession. He was already half undressed, his postal shirt hanging open. Gabriel, I was delivering. Trevor stammered. A package to my bedroom? While using the key my wife gave you. Gabriel's voice was conversational, almost friendly. Sit down, Trevor. Look, man, I can explain. I said sit down. Something in Gabriel's tone made Trevor comply immediately. He perched on the edge of the bed where Gabriel slept every night, where his son sometimes crawled in during thunderstorms. Gabriel pulled out his phone and showed Trevor the photographs. Thursday, October 3rd, 10:47 a.m. to 11:23 a.m. Tuesday, October 8th, 10:45 a.m. to 11:31 a.m. Should I continue? Trevor's face went pale. It's not what you think. Really? Because I think you've been fucking my wife in my bed while my 5-year-old son was in the house. I think you've been doing it for months. And I think you've done this before. Sarah Martinez on Elm Street, Jennifer Park on Oak Avenue, Linda Chun on Maple Drive. Gabriel recited the names from Rico's report, watching Trevor's eyes widen with each one. How did you? I know a lot of things, Trevor. I know about your gambling debts. I know about the restraining order. I know you specifically requested this route because it gave you access to lonely housewives. Gabriel sat down across from Trevor, his posture relaxed but his eyes deadly. What I want to know is why you thought you could do this to my family. Trevor tried to stand, but Gabriel's hand shot out, gripping the man's wrist with enough force to make him gasp. We're not done talking, Gabriel said calmly. You see, Trevor, I spent 12 years in the Marines. I learned a lot about patience, about planning, about making sure my targets never saw me coming. And right now, you're my target. You can't hurt me, Trevor wheezed. People will know. Who will know? Your supervisor thinks you're on your out. My wife thinks you're just a friendly mailman. My son thinks you're playing a wrestling game with his mother. Gabriel's grip tightened. The truth is, no one would miss you for hours. Maybe days. Trevor's breathing became rapid and shallow. What do you want? Gabriel smiled, and for the first time, Trevor seemed to understand the depth of his mistake. I want you to disappear, Trevor. I want you to request a transfer to another city, another state. I want you to never contact my wife again, never drive down this street again, never even think about my family again. And if I don't, Gabriel released Trevor's wrist and stood up. If you don't, I'll destroy you piece by piece. Your job, your credit, your reputation. I'll make sure every married woman in Chicago knows exactly what kind of predator you are. And if that doesn't work, Gabriel paused at the bedroom door. Well, let's just say I know how to make problems disappear permanently. Trevor sat frozen on the bed as Gabriel walked downstairs and out the front door, locking it behind him with his own key. By the time he returned to the truck, Gabriel was smiling genuinely for the first time in days. Did you stop Mommy's friend? Oliver asked. Phase 1 is complete, soldier. Now we move to Phase 2. Chapter 4, The Web Titans. Trevor Walsh submitted his transfer request that same afternoon. Within a week, he was assigned to a route in Portland, Oregon, nearly 2,000 miles away. Gabriel monitored the man's social media and credit reports through Rico's contacts, ensuring Trevor understood that distance wouldn't protect him if he ever returned. But Trevor was just the beginning. Isabella was the real target, and Gabriel intended to make her betrayal cost her everything she held dear. "Daddy, why doesn't the mailman come anymore?" Oliver asked the following Thursday as they returned from the station. "He got a new job far away," Gabriel replied. "But don't worry about him. We have other games to play." Gabriel had spent years studying Isabella's patterns, her ambitions, her weaknesses. She valued her career above all else, worked obsessively to maintain her image as the perfect corporate wife, and had built her entire identity around her professional success. That's where Gabriel would strike. Using skills learned during corporate security consultations, Gabriel began documenting every aspect of Isabella's work life. He knew her passwords. She'd never been careful about cybersecurity, often using variations of Oliver's name and birthday. Her laptop, left carelessly open while she showered, revealed far more than just scheduling conflicts. Isabella had been embellishing her expense reports for months, claiming personal meals and purchases as business expenses. Nothing major, just enough to supplement her shopping habits and spa treatments. She'd also been taking credit for marketing campaigns developed by junior staff members, using their ideas to secure her recent promotion. But Gabriel found something even more interesting in her deleted emails. Correspondence with a headhunter about a position with a competing hotel chain in Los Angeles. Isabella was planning to leave Chicago, to take Oliver and start fresh on the West Coast. She'd been interviewing secretly for weeks. "She thinks she's going to run away," Gabriel murmured as he copied the files to an encrypted drive. "She has no idea what's coming." Gabriel's next call was to Marcus Rodriguez, a former Marine who now worked in corporate intelligence. Marcus specialized in what he called reputation management, helping clients navigate scandals, or in some cases, creating scandals for their enemies. "I need you to audit someone," Gabriel said. "Isabella Torres, marketing director at Premier Luxury Hotels. I want everything: expenses, performance reviews, client feedback. And I want it to look like it came from an internal whistleblower. Personal or professional? Both. She's been stealing from the company and planning to jump ship to a competitor. I just need someone to connect the dots." Marcus had never asked questions during their military service, and he didn't start now. Timeline: 2 weeks. I want her gone before she has a chance to execute her exit strategy. While Marcus worked his magic in the corporate world, Gabriel began phase 3 of his plan. He hired a different private investigator, Maria Santos, to follow Isabella during her supposed late nights. Maria was a former Chicago police detective who specialized in divorce cases, and she had a reputation for obtaining evidence that would hold up in court. The photographs Maria provided were devastating. Isabella wasn't just having an affair with Trevor. She'd been seeing multiple men over the past year. The hotel bar she claimed to visit for networking events was actually a high-end pickup spot where she met wealthy guests. Maria documented at least 4 different encounters, complete with hotel room receipts and credit card statements. "Your wife has expensive tastes," Maria reported during their meeting at a coffee shop downtown. "She's been living a double life for at least a year, maybe longer. Designer clothes, spa treatments, luxury dinners, all paid for by her dates." Gabriel studied the photographs without emotion. Isabella laughing with a man old enough to be her father. Isabella kissing a younger man in the elevator of the Ritz-Carlton. Isabella entering hotel rooms with strangers while her husband believed she was building her career. "How long would you estimate this has been going on?" Gabriel asked. "Based on the pattern of credit card charges and hotel loyalty program data, at least 18 months. Probably started around the time she got her promotion." Gabriel nodded, filing the information away. Isabella's betrayal wasn't just about Trevor. It was a systematic pattern of infidelity and deception that had begun long before the mailman entered their lives. "I need one more thing," Gabriel told Maria. "I need you to document her meeting with the headhunter. She's planning to leave the state with my son, and I need proof of her intentions." Maria smiled grimly. "Consider it done." Chapter 5. The Trap Springs. The first domino fell on a Wednesday morning. Isabella's phone rang as they were driving to the station, and Gabriel could hear the panic in her voice as she answered. "What do you mean, there's an investigation?" Isabella's face went white. "I haven't done anything wrong." Gabriel kept his expression neutral as Isabella ended the call, her hand shaking. "Problem at work?" he asked innocently. "Just some administrative nonsense. Nothing I can't handle." But Isabella's voice betrayed her fear. By the time Gabriel returned home after dropping Oliver at school, Isabella had called in sick and was frantically searching through her home office, shredding documents, and deleting files from her personal laptop. Too late, Gabriel thought as he watched through the window. Marcus had already provided copies of everything to Premier Luxury Hotel's internal audit team, along with an anonymous tip about Isabella's planned defection to their competitor. Gabriel's phone rang that afternoon. Rico's voice was tense. "Your wife just hired a divorce attorney. Big gun from downtown, specializes in custody cases. Name? Patricia Kellerman. She's been calling around, trying to get dirt on you. Military records, financial history, anything she can use to paint you as unstable." Gabriel almost laughed. Isabella was still thinking like an amateur, trying to play defense when she should have been running. "What do they find?" "Clean slate. Your records are sealed under national security provisions, and your financials show steady income from legitimate consulting work." "She's got nothing." "Good. Keep monitoring her communications. I want to know every move she makes." That evening, Isabella paced the kitchen while Gabriel cooked dinner, her professional composure completely shattered. "Gabe, I need to ask you something," she said, her voice carefully controlled. "If something happened to my job, would you support me while I look for something new?" Gabriel looked up from the stove, feigning concern. "Of course. What's wrong?" "There's been some kind of internal audit. Probably just routine, but you know how corporate politics can be." Isabella sat down at the kitchen table, wrapping her hands around a coffee mug. "I might need to take some time off while things get sorted out." "We'll figure it out," Gabriel assured her, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Family sticks together, right?" Isabella nodded, tears threatening to spill over. "Right. Family first." Gabriel squeezed her shoulder gently, thinking about the photographs in his safe, the recorded phone calls, the evidence of her planned escape with Oliver. Always. The second domino fell 3 days later. Isabella was terminated from her position at Premier Luxury Hotels, effective immediately. Security escorted her from the building with a box of personal items, her corporate credit cards confiscated, her access to company systems permanently revoked. Gabriel received the news from Marcus 30 minutes before Isabella's humiliated call. "They're saying I falsified expense reports," Isabella sobbed over the phone. "They're threatening to press charges unless I pay back what they claim I owe." "How much?" Gabriel asked, already knowing the answer. $47,000. Plus penalties. "Gabe, I don't have that kind of money." "We'll figure something out," Gabriel said calmly. "Come home. We'll talk about it." But Isabella didn't come home. According to Maria's surveillance, she went straight to her attorney's office, then to a bank, then to a hotel bar, where she proceeded to drink herself into near unconsciousness. Gabriel picked up Oliver from school and took him for ice cream, letting his son chatter about his day while Gabriel planned the final phase of his operation. "Daddy, will Mommy be okay?" Oliver asked as they walked back to the truck. "She seemed sad this morning. Mommy made some bad choices, soldier." Sometimes when people make bad choices, they have to face consequences. Gabriel buckled Oliver into his car seat. "But no matter what happens, you and I will always be okay." Oliver nodded solemnly. "Because we're a team?" "Because we're a team," Gabriel confirmed. "And teammates never betray each other." That night, Isabella stumbled through the front door at nearly midnight, reeking of alcohol and desperation. Gabriel was waiting in the living room, divorce papers spread across the coffee table. "We need to talk," he said quietly. Chapter 6, The Reckoning. Isabella stood swaying in the doorway, her designer dress wrinkled, her makeup smeared from crying. For a moment, Gabriel almost felt sorry for her, almost. Then he remembered Oliver's innocent voice describing the wrestling games, and the feeling evaporated. "You're drunk," Gabriel observed. "I'm ruined," Isabella slurred, collapsing onto the couch. 20 years of building my career, and it's gone. All of it. Gabriel gestured to the papers on the coffee table. "I know about Trevor. I know about the others. I know about Los Angeles." Isabella's head snapped up, her eyes trying to focus. What are you talking about? The mailman who had a key to our house. The businessman from the Ritz-Carlton. The venture capitalist from the Palmer House. Should I continue? Gabriel's voice remained calm, clinical. Or would you prefer to discuss your interview with Crawford Hotels in L.A.? The color drained from Isabella's face. How did you? I know everything, Isabella. Every lie, every betrayal, every time you looked me in the eye and lied about working late. Gabriel leaned forward. I know you were planning to take Oliver and disappear to California. I know you've been stealing from your company to fund your affairs. I know you hired Patricia Kellerman to try to destroy me in court. Isabella began to sob, the sound harsh and broken in the quiet house. I never meant for it to go this far. When did it start? Gabriel asked. The affairs, the lying, the stealing. When did my wife become someone I don't recognize? After Oliver was born, Isabella whispered. I felt trapped, like my life was over. You were so good at being a father, so natural, and I felt like I was suffocating. The first time was it just happened. A conference in New York, too much wine, a charming stranger. Gabriel nodded, filing the information away. And Trevor. He was so young, so eager. He made me feel beautiful again, desired. Isabella wiped her nose with the back of her hand. I know it was wrong, but I couldn't stop. I didn't want to stop. What about Oliver? What about him? He saw you, Isabella. My 5-year-old son walked in on you and Trevor. He's been carrying that secret for months, thinking he was protecting some kind of game. Gabriel's voice finally showed emotion, cold, hard anger. You traumatized our child to satisfy your selfish needs. Isabella's sobs intensified. I never meant for him to see anything. I thought he was at school. He was homesick, fever of 102, and you sent him to his room so you could fuck the mailman in our bed. Gabriel stood up, towering over her. You put your affair above our son's well-being. I can fix this, Isabella said desperately. I'll get help, therapy, whatever you want. We can work through this. Gabriel laughed, the sound devoid of humor. Work through this? You've been lying to me for over a year. You've been stealing money, planning to kidnap my son, and destroying our family. There is no working through this. He picked up the divorce papers and placed them in Isabella's lap. You're going to sign these. Tonight, you'll agree to joint custody with primary residence going to me. You'll liquidate your retirement account to pay back what you stole from Premier Hotels. And you'll never contest any of my decisions regarding Oliver's welfare. And if I don't, Gabriel pulled out his phone and showed her the photographs. Isabella stared at images of herself with various men, her face cycling through shock, horror, and resignation. If you don't, these go to your parents, your sister, your friends from college, and every contact in your professional network. I'll also make sure the DA's office receives evidence of your embezzlement, complete with documentation of how you use company funds to finance your affairs. Isabella stared at the photos, her hands shaking. You've been planning this for weeks. Months, Gabriel corrected. Ever since Oliver told me about the mailman. I've been very thorough, Isabella. I have recordings of your phone calls, copies of your bank statements, hotel receipts, everything. You have no cards left to play. What about Oliver? He needs his mother. Oliver needs stability, honesty, and parents who put his welfare first. You've proven you're incapable of any of those things. Gabriel sat back down, his posture relaxed but his eyes hard. You can be part of his life on weekends and holidays, under my supervision, if you agree to my terms. Or you can fight me and lose everything, including any chance of a relationship with your son. Isabella picked up the divorce papers with trembling hands. You're destroying our family. No, Isabella. You destroyed our family the first time you brought another man into our home. I'm just cleaning up the mess. She signed the papers with tears streaming down her face, her signature barely legible. When she finished, Gabriel took the documents and placed them in his briefcase. You have until tomorrow morning to pack whatever personal items you want to keep. After that, you're not welcome in this house. Gabriel stood up and walked toward the stairs. Oh, and Isabella, if you ever try to take Oliver away from me, if you ever put him in danger again, I will hunt you down and make you disappear. That's not a threat, it's a promise. Isabella remained on the couch, sobbing into her hands, as Gabriel went upstairs to check on his sleeping son. Chapter 7. New Beginnings. 3 months later, Gabriel stood in the kitchen making breakfast while Oliver practiced reading at the table. The morning routine had evolved. No more trips to the train station. No more walking on eggshells around Isabella's moods. Just father and son, building a life based on honesty and mutual respect. "Daddy, will Mommy come to my birthday party?" Oliver asked, sounding up from his book. "If she wants to," Gabriel replied, though he doubted Isabella would show. She'd missed 2 scheduled visitations already, sending apologetic texts about needing time to get her life together. Isabella had moved to Milwaukee, taking a job with a small marketing firm that was willing to overlook her professional scandal. She lived in a studio apartment and drove a 10-year-old Honda, a far cry from the luxury lifestyle she'd maintained during her affair phase. Gabriel received court-mandated reports on her progress. She was attending therapy, working to pay back the money she'd stolen, and had apparently ended all romantic relationships. Dr. Martinez says it's normal for kids to have mixed feelings about divorce, Oliver announced, returning to his book. Gabriel smiled. The child psychologist had been Oliver's idea. The boy had asked why he felt sad about Mommy leaving when he was also happy that the wrestling games were over. Dr. Martinez was helping Oliver process the complex emotions that came with watching his family dissolve. "What did you tell her yesterday?" Gabriel asked. "That I'm glad you and Mommy don't fight anymore, but I miss having 2 parents who live in the same house." Oliver looked up with serious eyes. "Is that okay?" "It's very okay, soldier. You're allowed to have complicated feelings about complicated situations." Gabriel's phone buzzed with a text from Rico. "Package delivered. All clean." Gabriel deleted the message, satisfied. Rico had just confirmed that Trevor Walsh's new life in Portland had been thoroughly disrupted. The predatory mailman had been arrested for stalking a married woman on his new route. Apparently, some habits were hard to break. The arrest, combined with Gabriel's anonymous tips to the Postal Service about Trevor's pattern of affairs, had resulted in termination and a federal investigation into mail fraud. Trevor would never threaten another family. Gabriel's consulting business had expanded significantly since the divorce. Word had spread through private security circles about his expertise in personal protection services, and he'd been hired by 3 other betrayed spouses to investigate and document their partners' infidelities. Gabriel found the work satisfying, helping people uncover the truth and protect their children from narcissistic, destructive parents. "Daddy, someone's at the door," Oliver called from the living room. Gabriel checked the security monitor and frowned. Isabella stood on the front porch, looking nervous and carrying a wrapped present. "It's Mommy," Gabriel told Oliver, who immediately brightened. Isabella had lost weight, her once perfect appearance replaced by a more natural, subdued look. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail instead of her trademark business-appropriate bun. "Hi," she said quietly when Gabriel opened the door. "You're 3 hours early," Gabriel observed. "And we haven't confirmed this visit." "I know. I was hoping we could talk before I spend time with Oliver." Isabella's voice was different, smaller, less confident. "I have something I need to say." Gabriel studied her for a long moment, then stepped aside. "Oliver, Mommy's here for a visit. Why don't you show her your dinosaur project?" As Oliver dragged his mother toward his display of plastic dinosaurs, Gabriel remained vigilant. Trust, once broken, couldn't be rebuilt with simple apologies and changed behavior. Isabella would have to prove herself over time, if she ever could. "This is amazing, honey," Isabella told Oliver, examining his carefully arranged dinosaur habitat. "Tell me about this one." "That's a velociraptor. They hunted in packs and were super smart. Daddy says they're like military teams because they work together." Oliver launched into an enthusiastic explanation, and for a moment, Gabriel could see the shadow of the family they might have been. After an hour of playing with Oliver, Isabella approached Gabriel in the kitchen. "I've been thinking about what you said that night," she began. "About Oliver needing parents who put his welfare first. I realize I never did that. I put my needs, my wants, my selfish desires above everything else." Gabriel continued washing dishes, letting her talk. "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect us to get back together, but I want you to know that I'm trying to become someone worthy of being Oliver's mother. Isabella's voice was steady, sincere. I'm in therapy twice a week. I paid back everything I stole. I haven't been with anyone since we signed the papers. Good for you, Gabriel said neutrally. I know it doesn't fix anything. I know I destroyed something beautiful and precious, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life. Isabella wiped her eyes. But Oliver is innocent in all this. He deserves better than what I gave him. Gabriel turned to face her. He deserves a mother who chooses him over her own convenience. Every time, without question. I know, and I'm trying to learn how to be that person. Gabriel nodded slowly. Then keep trying. Prove it with actions, not words. Show up when you say you will. Put his needs first. Be honest about your limitations. He paused. And never, ever bring another man around him unless you're prepared to make that a permanent relationship. Understand. I hope you do, because there won't be another chance after this. Disappoint him again, and you'll lose him forever. Isabella nodded, tears flowing freely. I won't let him down. Gabriel watched as she returned to Oliver, sitting on the floor to examine his latest Lego creation. Time would tell if Isabella could truly change, or if this was just another performance designed to manipulate the situation to her advantage. Either way, Gabriel would be watching. Chapter 8, The Final Test. 1 year after the divorce was finalized, Gabriel received an unexpected call from Patricia Kellerman, Isabella's former attorney. Mr. Torres, I have an unusual situation I'd like to discuss with you, the lawyer said. It concerns your ex-wife. Gabriel was immediately suspicious. I thought you no longer represented Isabella. I don't, but I have information you need to know, and frankly, I'm not sure who else to call. Patricia's voice carried an urgency that made Gabriel pay attention. Can we meet? Preferably somewhere private. They met at a coffee shop in suburban Naperville, far from Gabriel's usual haunts. Patricia looked tired, older than her 40-something years. Isabella came to see me last week. Patricia began without preamble. She wanted to know if there was any way to modify the custody agreement to give her primary residence of Oliver. Gabriel's blood turned cold. On what grounds? That's just it. She didn't have grounds. When I explained that she needed to demonstrate a significant change in circumstances, she asked about your military background. Specifically, she wanted to know if PTSD could be ground for declaring you an unfit parent. And you told her? I told her it was impossible without evidence of actual unfitness, which she doesn't have. But Gabriel, Patricia leaned forward. She's desperate. Her life in Milwaukee isn't working out. She lost her job last month. She's behind on rent, and I think she's considering doing something drastic. Gabriel processed this information with the same methodical approach he used for all potential threats. Define drastic. She asked very specific questions about parental kidnapping laws. What would happen if she took Oliver out of state without permission? How long it would take for law enforcement to get involved? Whether she could claim you were abusive to justify her actions. Gabriel felt the familiar cold settle over him. The same emotional detachment that had served him well in combat situations. Did you advise her against this course of action? Of course. I also declined to represent her in any such matter. But Gabriel, she's not thinking clearly. She's lost everything. Her career, her home, her identity. Oliver is the only thing she has left. Oliver isn't a thing to be possessed, Gabriel said quietly. He's a child who needs stability. I know that. You know that. But Isabella is in crisis mode, and people in crisis make terrible decisions. Patricia pulled out a business card. This is a colleague of mine who specializes in family law enforcement. If Isabella does try something, you'll need legal representation immediately. Gabriel pocketed the card. Thank you for the warning. That evening, Gabriel called Rico while Oliver played video games in the living room. I need full surveillance on Isabella, Gabriel said. 24/7 monitoring, financial tracking, communication intercepts. She's planning something. How deep do you want me to go? As deep as necessary. If she tries to take Oliver, I want to know about it before she makes her move. Rico's report came 3 days later. Isabella had withdrawn her remaining savings, $3,847, in cash. She'd researched bus routes from Chicago to cities without extradition agreements with Illinois. Most tellingly, she'd purchased a prepaid cell phone and had been calling Oliver's school, asking detailed questions about security procedures and pickup protocols. Gabriel immediately contacted Oliver's principal, Mrs. Henderson, a sharp-eyed woman who'd run the elementary school for 15 years. "I need to add some names to Oliver's authorized pickup list," Gabriel explained during their meeting. "And I need to remove his mother temporarily." Mrs. Henderson raised an eyebrow. "Is there a safety concern?" "Potentially. Isabella has been asking about school security, and I have reason to believe she might attempt to take Oliver without permission." Gabriel showed her the court documents establishing his primary custody. "Until further notice, only I or my designated emergency contacts should be allowed to take Oliver from school. Of course, we'll update his file immediately and alert all staff." Mrs. Henderson made notes in Oliver's permanent record. "Should we be concerned about pickup attempts after hours? Isabella knows our routine. She might try during lunch, recess, or field trips when security is more relaxed." Gabriel handed her Rico's business card. "This is my security consultant. If you have any questions or concerns, call him immediately." Gabriel spent the weekend preparing Oliver for a potential crisis without frightening the boy. "Remember our rule about going with other people?" Gabriel asked as they worked on a puzzle together. "Only go with you, Uncle Rico, or Mrs. Martinez from next door," Oliver recited. "And only if they know the secret password. And if someone tries to make you go with them anyway, scream, fight, and run toward other grown-ups." Oliver looked up from the puzzle. "Are you worried about something, Daddy?" Gabriel ruffled his son's hair. "Just being careful, soldier. Good fathers always have backup plans." The attempt came on Tuesday afternoon. Gabriel was in a client meeting when his phone buzzed with an emergency alert from the school. He excused himself and called Mrs. Henderson immediately. Isabella showed up during lunch recess, the principal reported. She told the playground supervisor she was here to pick up Oliver for a dentist appointment. When the supervisor asked for written authorization, Isabella became agitated and claimed there was a family emergency. "Where is she now?" Security walked her off the property. She kept insisting she had a right to see her son, but when we showed her the updated pickup restrictions, she left. Mrs. Henderson paused. "Gabriel," she seemed unstable, angry and desperate. "Is Oliver okay?" "He's fine. He was in the library during lunch, so he didn't see any of it." "But Gabriel, I think you should consider involving the police." Gabriel was already walking to his truck. "I'll be there in 10 minutes. He found Oliver in the principal's office, reading a book and seemingly unaware of the drama that had unfolded. Gabriel's heart clenched as he looked at his son, innocent, trusting, completely dependent on the adults in his life to keep him safe. "Hey, soldier, ready to go home? Already? But I didn't finish my math worksheet." "We'll finish it at home," Gabriel promised, helping Oliver gather his backpack. As they walked to the truck, Gabriel spotted Isabella's Honda parked across the street from the school. She was sitting behind the wheel, staring at them through the windshield. When she realized Gabriel had seen her, she started the engine and drove away. Gabriel made a decision that would determine the final outcome of his war with Isabella. Chapter 9. Endgame. Gabriel called 911 from the school parking lot, reporting attempted kidnapping and a violation of custody orders. By the time he and Oliver reached home, 2 police cruisers were waiting in their driveway. "Mr. Torres? I'm Detective Sarah Williams. We need to discuss your ex-wife's behavior today." Gabriel invited the officers inside, while Oliver went to his room to work on homework. In the living room, Gabriel laid out the complete file he'd been building on Isabella's instability, the failed pickup attempt, her recent job loss, the legal consultation about changing custody, and the surveillance evidence of her planning. "She's been escalating," Gabriel explained. "First the questions about my fitness as a parent, then researching parental kidnapping laws, now attempting to take Oliver from school without authorization." Detective Williams studied the documents. "This is very thorough. You've been monitoring her activities?" "I have a private investigator on retainer. Given Isabella's history of deception and her recent desperate circumstances, I felt it was necessary to protect my son. We'll issue a warrant for her arrest, Detective Williams decided. Attempted kidnapping, violation of custody orders, and harassment. Do you have a current address? Gabriel provided Isabella's Milwaukee apartment information, knowing it was probably too late. Rico had reported that Isabella hadn't returned to her apartment since morning, and her car wasn't in its assigned parking space. The detective's radio crackled with an update. Isabella's Honda had been spotted at Chicago O'Hare Airport, abandoned in the long-term parking garage. Airport security was reviewing footage to determine if she'd boarded a flight. She's running, Gabriel realized. She knows she's burned all her bridges. But Gabriel had underestimated Isabella's desperation. At 9:47 p.m., while Oliver slept and Gabriel reviewed security footage with Rico, the power went out. The backup generator kicked in immediately, but Gabriel knew the outage wasn't coincidental. "She's here," Gabriel told Rico, his voice deadly calm. "Take Oliver to the safe room." Gabriel had converted the basement panic room during the divorce proceedings, installing it ostensibly for general security, but really in anticipation of this exact scenario. Rico swept Oliver from his bed and carried the sleepy boy downstairs while Gabriel armed himself and checked the perimeter. Isabella had learned some tradecraft during their marriage, absorbing Gabriel's security lessons through osmosis. She'd cut the power at the street transformer, approached through the neighbor's backyard, and disabled the rear motion sensors. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She didn't know about the infrared cameras Gabriel had installed after the divorce. Gabriel watched on his tablet as Isabella tried to jimmy the basement window she'd seen him use months earlier. She'd lost weight, making her more agile, and she moved with the desperation of someone who had nothing left to lose. Gabriel could have called the police, could have waited for backup, could have handled this through official channels. Instead, he chose to end it personally. He opened the basement door silently, moving through his own house like a ghost. Isabella was halfway through the window when Gabriel spoke. "Hello, Isabella." She spun around, losing her balance and falling into the basement in a tangle of limbs. Gabriel descended the stairs slowly, taking his time. "This is breaking and entering," Gabriel observed conversationally. "Also stalking, attempted kidnapping, and violation of a restraining order." Isabella struggled to her feet, her face wild with desperation. "I want my son. He's not your son anymore. You gave up that right when you chose strangers over your family." "I made mistakes," Isabella screamed. "People make mistakes. That doesn't mean I should lose my child forever." Gabriel studied her with clinical detachment. Isabella's hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled and stained. She'd lost more weight than was healthy, and her eyes had the manic gleam of someone who'd stopped sleeping regularly. "You didn't make mistakes, Isabella. You made choices. Deliberate, selfish choices over and over again for more than a year." Gabriel moved closer, backing her against the basement wall. "You chose to betray your marriage. You chose to traumatize Oliver. You chose to steal money to fund your affairs. And now you're choosing to become a criminal rather than accept the consequences of your actions. I'm his mother. You're a stranger who shares his DNA. A real mother protects her child, puts his needs first, creates stability and security." Gabriel's voice remained calm, but his eyes were hard as steel. "You've done none of those things. You've brought chaos and pain into his life at every opportunity." Isabella pulled a knife from her jacket, a small utility blade that would be more dangerous to herself than to Gabriel. "I'm taking him with me. Tonight, I'll disappear, and you'll never find us." Gabriel almost smiled. "Isabella, I spent 12 years hunting people who didn't want to be found. You lasted 6 hours as a fugitive before abandoning your car at the airport. You think you can hide from me with a 5-year-old in tow? I'll do whatever it takes." "No, you won't, because you're not willing to actually sacrifice for Oliver. You never were." Gabriel took another step forward, ignoring the knife. "If you were really willing to do anything for him, you would have ended your affairs when he walked in on you and Trevor. You would have chosen your family over your selfish desires. You would have put his emotional well-being above your own pleasure." Isabella raised the knife, her hand shaking. Stay back. You want to know the truth, Isabella? Oliver doesn't ask about you anymore. He's happier without you. More secure, more confident, better adjusted. Gabriel's words hit her like physical blows. He's building a life based on honesty and stability, and you're not part of it. You're just a reminder of chaos and pain. That's not true. But Isabella's voice cracked, betraying her knowledge that Gabriel was right. Dr. Martinez says Oliver has been processing his trauma beautifully. He understands that adults sometimes make bad choices, and he's learned to recognize healthy relationships versus toxic ones. Gabriel was close enough now to take the knife away from her, but he didn't. He's learned that people who really love him don't lie to him, don't put him in danger, don't use him as a weapon in their personal wars. Isabella's arm dropped, the knife clattering to the concrete floor. I wanted to matter to someone. You mattered to Oliver. You mattered to me. But you threw that away for validation from strangers. Gabriel picked up the knife and slipped it into his pocket. And now you're going to prison. Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Rico had called for backup the moment Isabella entered the house. They'll give you 3 to 5 years for attempted kidnapping. Gabriel continued conversationally. By the time you get out, Oliver will be 10 years old. He won't remember you clearly, and he'll have no interest in reconnecting with someone who tried to steal him from his father. Isabella collapsed against the basement wall, sliding down to sit on the cold floor. I've lost everything. Yes, you have. Because you chose short-term pleasure over long-term happiness. You chose lies over truth. You chose selfishness over sacrifice. Gabriel heard the police entering through the front door. And most importantly, you chose to see Oliver as your possession rather than your responsibility. Detective Williams appeared at the top of the basement stairs, followed by 2 officers with drawn weapons. She's unarmed, Gabriel called up, and ready to surrender. As the officers placed Isabella in handcuffs, she looked at Gabriel one last time. Will you tell Oliver I love him? Gabriel considered the question seriously. No, love is action, not words. If you loved him, you would have made different choices. He turned away as they led her upstairs. Actions have consequences, Isabella. Finally, after the police left and the house was secure, Gabriel found Oliver in the safe room, reading a book while Rico played on his phone. Is everything okay now, Daddy? Oliver asked without looking up from his story. Everything's fine, soldier. Mommy won't be bothering us anymore. Oliver nodded and returned to his book, accepting the news with the resilience that had carried him through his parents' divorce and his mother's abandonment. Gabriel watched his son read, thinking about the choices that had led them to this moment. Isabella would spend the next several years in prison, and when she was released, Oliver would be old enough to decide for himself whether he wanted a relationship with her. Gabriel suspected the answer would be no. Some betrayals couldn't be forgiven. Some trust, once broken, could never be repaired. And some people, when given the choice between their children's well-being and their own desires, would always choose themselves. Gabriel had learned those lessons in the Marines, where a single act of selfishness could get your entire squad killed. Now he'd taught them to his son, who would grow up understanding that loyalty, honesty, and sacrifice were the foundations of any meaningful relationship. Ready to go upstairs? Gabriel asked. Can we have hot chocolate? Oliver asked hopefully. Absolutely. As they climbed the basement stairs together, Gabriel reflected on the war he'd just won. Isabella was gone, Oliver was safe, and their life could finally move forward without the shadow of betrayal hanging over them. He'd kept his promise to himself and to his son. He'd never forgiven, never forgotten, and never let those who betrayed his family escape the consequences of their choices. Some men might have called it ruthless. Gabriel called it justice. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.